visiting our Native Splendor Garden earlier with Olin, Olin mentioned the penstemons. Penstemons are a genus of flowers, and the Greek name penstemon means 5 stamens. And that's because the flower has 5 stamens. Stamens are the male reproductive structures, and I peeled back the leaves of a lily. Lily has really large plant parts, so we could see these very well. And this is one stamen, and it's comprised of a tube called a filament, which is sort of stalk-like, and on the tip is the anther, and this is where the pollen sacs are formed. And if you rub up on those, you could see the yellow pollen on your finger. Now this is the penstemon flower, and I've pulled back a couple of the petals to show the 5 stamens, and of these 4 are fertile. Those are the ones with the dark anthers on the end, but the 5th one is sterile. It doesn't have any anthers, and it has these hairs all along the filament, and that gives the penstemon one of its common names, which is beard tongue. Now we have 2 penstemons in our garden here. The first I want to look at is the red cupleaf penstemon, and Oklahoma has 13 native penstemons throughout the state, but only one of these has red or orange flowers, and this is it, Penstemon marianus. It has a really beautiful flower color, and then the stems themselves are also sort of this purplish red color, which adds just even more interest. And set against these are some bluish colored leaves. They're kind of waxy, have a bluish film over them. These leaves are so interesting. You could see that where they meet the stem, they're fused together. And this is what gives the plant its common name, cupleaf, red cupleaf penstemon. And these little cups will collect water after a rain, and you might see some butterflies come and sit here and drink from the water. Now these plants really take harsh conditions, and our garden, as Olin mentioned, is fairly fertile. We've been growing here year after year and adding a lot of organic matter, and our penstemon has flopped over a little bit because of that, so we've put a ring in to try to help hold it up. Normally these would be much shorter, but the fertility has made it grow very tall and a little bit floppy. So it's best if you find an unamended area of your garden and put these in. One of those spots that very few other plants want to grow in, our red cupleaf penstemon will do wonderful. Right in front of it we have the Tubeflower Penstemon, which has a magnificent white flower. And this is probably one of the showiest of our penstemons, with these long stalks of white. The Tubeflower Penstemon will tolerate more moisture than our red cupleaf penstemon, but both of these like very well-drained soil, and you want to avoid overwatering them so that they don't get too leggy. These plants are very attractive to hummingbirds, so you want to put them in a place where you can enjoy the action, and they work very well in a nice open sunny border. Tucked in behind here is another of our early blooming perennials, and this is Barbara's buttons, or Marshallea caspitos. And native plant experts everywhere agree that this is a wonderful addition to the garden. Now this plant is interesting. It doesn't have any ray flowers, or what we usually think of as petals. This is a member of the aster family, so it has somewhat of a daisy-like flower, but it's missing that outer ring of petals. All of the flowers are these small florets inside. The flowers sit atop 12 to 18-inch stalks, and on the ground is a small rosette of long strappy leaves. They don't get very large, about a foot across, and they work very well at the edge of a planting. Now butterflies love Barbara's buttons, so you're going to see them coming to sip the nectar. Well, there's one more plant I want to take a look at in our Native Splendor Garden. This graceful perennial is American Ipecac, or Galenia stipulata. And I really love this plant for its foliage more than anything. It has this very light, soft foliage, and if you look on the plant at the bottom, the newer leaves are very deeply cut, and as you move up, they're less so. But both the young leaves and the new leaves have very nice serration along the edge and deep venation. and give it this very beautiful texture. The plant grows fairly large as it's mature. It'll reach about 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and it works very well at the back of a border. Right now we're seeing the star-shaped flowers, which are nice and delicate, just like the foliage. We also have a slight reddish orange color to the stems, which is another attractive feature. American Ipecac takes slightly mesic or wet conditions, and it'll perform best in the drier parts of the state if it gets some shade, especially from the late afternoon sun. Now, we're all familiar with syrup of Ipecac, which is used to induce vomiting. That actually comes from a different plant called Ipecacuana, but the American Ipecac has similar properties, and in fact it was used by the Native Americans, and the early colonial settlers also were quite familiar with the medicinal properties of American Ipecac.